Today on Gibson A Go-Go, we're talking about the best bass that Gibson has ever made, the G3. Now, of course, the official name for the G3 is the Gibson Grabber G3, so to better understand that model, we're also going to be talking about the Grabber. So today we're going to hear sound samples of both the Grabber and the Grabber G3, and I'm going to let you know some information from Fly Guitars, which if you haven't heard of Fly Guitars, it is a wonderful resource on vintage instruments, vintage Gibson instruments. This is in no way intended to be a copyright infringement. I'm letting you know these are the words that they wrote, so if you're the owner of Fly Guitars, I'm not trying to impede on your territory, I just think that this is a tremendous resource, and if you haven't heard of it, definitely go check it out at flyguitars.com. The Gibson Grabber bass was a real departure for Gibson in the early 1970s. Along with its sister instruments, the G3 and the Ripper, it brought some new ideas to the Gibson stable, and in the second half of the 1970s, these models became Gibson's best-selling basses. Between the years 1973 and 1979, approximately 6,800 Gibson Grabbers shipped from the Kalamazoo plant in Michigan, USA. The early to mid-1970s were tough times for Gibson. Norland had rescued Gibson in December of 1969, and the struggling company really had to make some big changes in order to survive. America was in recession in 1970 and again in 1973 to 75. Japanese guitar imports had vastly improved in quality and were directly copying Gibson's own products, often down to the smallest detail. And on top of all of this, the public seemed to prefer Fender basses. All of this had to be taken into account with the design of the next Gibson bass. Grabber basses had to be easy to produce, highly functional, and with a price point in line of the Fender Precision. As well as a new body shape and a flying V headstock, the Grabber was the first bolt-on Gibson bass. The model got its name from the innovative sliding pickup, which allowed manual positioning. You literally grab the pickup and slide it where you want, towards the bridge for maximum treble and towards the neck for maximum bass. The bolt-on maple neck was more in Fender's tradition of building guitars, and this construction had a big impact tonally. The Grabber has a much brighter and more Fender-like tone than most other Gibson basses. It was, of course, built to be an affordable bass because it had to compete commercially not only with the classic Fender models, but also the huge number of high-quality imported instruments increasingly taking market share from American manufacturers. The Grabber used less expensive parts, the least parts, and the cheapest construction methods possible. The sliding pickup gave the sounds of the bridge or neck position with just one pickup, two pots, and no switches, all mounted on the scratch plate. The Fender-like bridge was far simpler than the usual Gibson post-mounted versions, and the front-mounted body with a bolt-on neck is still the simplest and quickest way to manufacture and assemble a guitar. Okay, so now that we have a little better understanding of the Grabber and where it came from, let's talk about the G3. The Gibson G3 bass, or Grabber 3 bass, was launched in 1975, first shown alongside the Grabber at the 1975 NAMM show, where it was very well received with significant orders placed. They were initially referred to by Gibson as V-series basses, most likely because of the Flying V style headstock. The G3 was based on the Grabber, with the main difference being the pickup configuration. The G3 features 3 single-coil pickups wired in humbucking configuration, while the Grabber had the one sliding pickup. Both were the product of guitar designer Bill Lawrence, who joined Gibson in the early 1970s. The controls for the G3 are as follows. The forward position activates the front and middle pickups in a humbucking configuration, where the back position activates the middle and back pickup in the same manner. Where this bass gets real special is in the middle position, which activates all 3 pickups for what is commonly referred to as the buck and a half. The G3 and Grabber both had bolt-on maple necks and maple or alder bodies, which is interesting because this particular bass is quite a bit heavier in the body than the other Grabber, which, fun fact, belongs to Jamie Lewis. So I'm guessing that this bass, the body's maple, where on Jamie's Grabber, the body is most likely alder. Fingerboards were typically maple, though occasionally rosewood or ebony. All of this maple added to the bolt-on construction leads to a very bright sounding bass with plenty of snap. The lightweight Grabber bridge was not designed to hold the strings. Instead, they passed through the body and then over the bridge, improving sustain. So a quick lookup of the serial number of this G3 says that it was made Thursday, April 19th, 1978 in the Kalamazoo plant and was number 199 of that day's production. Now, fun fact, if you have a G3 or you're wanting to get one, they have gone up quite a bit in price, and I don't know if this video is going to help that or not. An easy way to get a general ballpark date is by the pickup covers. Sometime around June or July, mid-1978, the pickup covers change from clear to black. So if you have clear pickups, it is pre-mid-1978, and if you have black pickups, it's after 1978. So this one, like I said, April 19th of 19, so this barely makes the cutoff for the clear pickups. And of course, beyond the sound samples that I recorded for this video, this bass has actually been used quite a bit by myself and everyone else in the Bass Channel organization. The first one, selfishly speaking, is when I recorded the album with Clint Wells sometime last year. Either way, I used a Gibson bass on every song on that album. I know this made it on multiple songs, and every song was tracked directly into Logic with the Dark Glass plugin and the Ampeg plugin. So let's just hear a little bit of how this bass sounds in that tone. I shot the promo video for Chuck's current band, I let him use this for that video, and it sounded awesome.
My God. Talk about Excalibur. This bass lives rent-free in my head every day. I can't tell you why everything works with this bass. The maple body, the maple neck and fingerboard, these pickups, the Bill Lawrence S1 pickups. It's just simplistic in its design, and it's perfect in what it's supposed to accomplish as far as a bass goes. It is probably the best sounding 4-string I've ever played. It's very clear, it's very pronounced, it's very focused. It sounds so good in the fact that it's able to cut through the mix but still supplement the mix so well. I can't explain it because it sounds so cliche, but this bass is hands down one of the best basses that I have ever played in my life. And it's not just me. The guitarist that I work with, his name's Jeff Basso. He's a decades-long studio engineer. He's recorded all kinds of people from, Crank Yankers to Celine Dion to Clint Black to Missy Elliott. He's worked with a ton of famous musicians. And, when I played this bass and we recorded it, he stopped playing and was like, dude, that has got to be the most recordable and best sounding bass tone I have ever heard in my career. Now, again, I respect his opinion because he's been doing this for a living for a long time. So the fact that someone with that caliber of exposure to musicianship and in equipment and gear heard the same thing I heard, but he worded it much more brilliantly, just kind of lends itself to reinforce my position that Gibson had it figured out. And I don't know why they walked away from this. I really don't. This bass has everything. The vibe, the aesthetic, the feel, the controls. Look at the controls. There's nothing magic there. There's nothing crazy. They kept it simple, stupid. And it works so well. Everything. String through, you get lots of natural sustain if you believe in those kinds of things. Maple is just very bright and big. It sounds great. Again, if you believe in those kinds of things, I do. And, again, there's something about a bass made in the 70s that just has stories, right? You can feel those stories, those memories conveyed when you play it, and it feels good. It feels what you want to hear in a bass. This does that. So I am very jealous of this bass. I love everything about it. It has an incredible bass tone to me. It just sounds different in the best way. It sounds different. And I understand now why you had so many bands that I grew up with, like Botch and Thrice and so all these guys, their bass players had some version of the G-3 or a Grabber. And this is why. The Maple Mojo. It just works.
So there you have it. I mean, this is a tremendously special bass. Obviously, the Grabber is also very cool for what it is, but this just has a different type of mojo. The fact that the Grabber is one pickup and this is either 2 or 3, depending on your position. For lack of a better word, we'll say that this is more of the jazz bassy version, where the Grabber's more of the P bassy version. Obviously, if the Grabber's more your flavor, your speed, and fits you better, then awesome. But I think, aside from this one suiting my ear a little better, I think this might be, generally speaking, the superior instrument because it just covers so many, pun intended, bases that you can't pass it up. So why Gibson decided to stop producing this, I don't know. Furthermore, why they decided to reissue an abomination version of this, the G3 Tribute, in I think it was 2012, 09, somewhere in that window of time, no idea. Gibson, if you're listening, first of all, hello, I've been here for a while. Secondly, please reissue this. They are going for ridiculous prices on the used market, and I can tell you without a doubt that they are moving. Because every time one pops up, I put it in my watch list, and a couple days later, it's gone. So it seems like there'd be a tremendous market for it, and I have to be honest, as much as I do love these instruments, Gibson's bass selection at the moment is not really hitting it out of the park for most people. I think this would change that. If you haven't heard of this, hopefully this video was informative. If you kind of heard about this, hopefully this video got you a little more excited for it. And if you are one of the head honchos at Gibson and you're watching this, again, let's do this. Let's make this. You don't have to credit me if you don't want to. Let's just make it. My video's timestamped so people will know anyway. So, okay, but in all seriousness, I really do think that this is probably the best bass they've ever produced ever. Which is funny that it comes out of one of their least liked eras, aside from the Henry era, but most people don't hold the Norlin era in high regard. So somehow this thing defied all of the odds and is one of the best basses of all time. So if you like this video, as per usual, give it a like. Let me know what you think down below. And if you disliked it, you can still leave a comment. That's cool. But if you're looking for some extra content, whether it be extended or exclusive videos, check out the membership down below. It's $5 a month and you get some pretty cool content in return. So I think that's just about all I have to say. So be safe and I'll see you next time.